Well, good morning. Welcome to our third part of this new series, studying the evolution of consciousness of our species, and of course, applying this also to the personal process of transformation and becoming aligned with this global process of evolution. One of the things that I wanted to address today was in speaking last time about the emergence of A Course in Miracles is about the process of channeling. Throughout time, there have been different mediums and mystics and whatever, people that would be representing somehow themselves as a portal through which the unmanifested would manifest. And this, again, is very key to our new process of evolution, moving into this awareness of our function, our energetic function as portals through which the unmanifested might manifest. So it makes sense that in the early days, there would always be some confusion about this, that some people, some individuals might claim to have special access. And of course, this has never been true. This just represents the limited awareness of what's really going on. One of the keynotes of reality is that there's nothing special about it. Reality is real. Yeah, there's a great, very opening of A Course in Miracles that says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So our evolution has been about the development of a relationship with reality, as opposed to being lost in the illusion of separation and whatever. So again, our early stages as Homo erectus, people were very much disconnected from their relationship with the divine. So there's all kinds of fears and superstitions. People were afraid of the eclipse. People were afraid of darkness. People believed, in fact, there was a part of our consciousness, our brain. I remember this amazing book by Julian Jaynes about the origin of consciousness in the breakdown of the bicameral mind. It used to be that our brain was divided in such a way that people would literally think they were hearing voices all the time. And this is why people, all ancient cultures had all these gods and goddesses and deities and angels, and everything was a projection. There was a total denial of one's own divinity, and then a multitude of projections of this divinity elsewhere. Okay, the same with ideas about aliens and angels and whatever. It's all part of the same process of, again, a divorce from reality, and then just making up stories about it. The Plato's cave, la 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 la. Okay, so it's very understandable that people would confuse the nature of reality and be confused by certain individuals who might claim out of their own unconsciousness, or in the case of charlatans, they know full well that they're being dishonest. They just are doing it for their own benefit, to gain power, to gain money, whatever. So again, in our modern time, beginning in the stage of the 1960s and 70s, and during this time, there were many popular channels, including Helen Schucman, who channeled A Course in Miracles, J.Z. Knight channeling Ramtha, Jane Roberts channeling Seth, Emmanuel, Pat Rodegast channeling Emmanuel. So it's very common. So what we find is, here's this time when there's a portal opening up, sort of a collective portal, and all of this information coming in through. Okay, and sometimes the channel is getting confused and thinking, oh, I have direct access and you don't. So, here I can sell my talks, write some books, what have you. The real great teachers, like I've quoted Durkheim and others, that would say that all of us, have equal access. Jesus in A Course in Miracles is very clear about our equal access to this consciousness that he represents. And the point of A Course in Miracles is to remove our obstacles to the presence of love or the presence of reality, that it might, again, use us for its manifestation in the space-time world. So, again, closing this gap is the process that we're about now. And it's easy to understand how people were confused and how some people would take advantage. Remember the guy, Conversations with God, he ended up confessing that he made up the whole thing. Gary Renard with his Arten and Persa, he actually confessed to a close friend of mine in a drunken state that he made up the whole thing. Later on, he recanted that confession and said, oh, no, Arten and Persa are real, and I'm the only one that they'll speak through. And it's, we'll get into the whole controversy around Gary Renard, but always there are charlatans, people who will pretend to have special powers, to have special access. None of it's true. So always, the great masters would always basically say, anybody that's trying to sell you something should not be trusted. That spiritual wisdom, spiritual truth should never be for sale. It's always freely available to everyone, anytime, anywhere. So just kind of look at the processes over the past number of decades where there's been all kinds of teachers, all kinds of teachings, all kinds of people looking to profit from spiritual truth. The whole shenanigan called The Secret was, a very huge blasphemy, where this egoic agenda that is attached to gaining material wealth would use spiritual principle to sort of talk about, oh, you can align yourself with the power of attraction, and you can have the big house on the hill, and you can have the beautiful partner, you can have the fancy cars. And, hopefully you're spiritually mature enough to know that all this is bogus, all child play, all very adolescent. And we move forward, to forgive those that would allow a cult of devotees to develop around them. It's a very normal thing for an egoic structure to enjoy all of that attention, to enjoy adulation. Okay, again, I'm here to tell you that the real true teacher, like Lao Tzu or any of the great ones, would advocate being as common as a stone, and to recognize that spiritual wisdom, spiritual truth is as common as a stone, not to make it special. When you make it special, you separate yourself from it. Okay, the whole point of the whole misconception around The Secret is that if you're desiring something in the first place and trying to attract it, you separated yourself from it. You've basically, you're acknowledging, if you say any mantra, if you say any prayer, if you're seeking something, then you're simply, the act of seeking is an affirmation that you don't have it already. Okay, all of the great masters would say, it's in you now. You have it now. You have the keys to the kingdom now. So it's very important in my journey, for example, with A Course in Miracles. And after a while, I just got very tired of the cult-like behavior of people that are in any groups, like, ooh, we have the inside information. Ooh, we're the special ones. Ooh, I found the same thing in the 12-step groups, AA, and I was 17 years sober, and I just found it so obnoxious that, oh, here's someone 20 years sober. Let's listen to him or her give a talk. Someone's 30, oh my God, 30 years sober. It's just so amazing. And, there's a huge cult-like presence in the 12-step groups, meaning like you're either one of us or you're not. And so I remember just thinking, this is a bunch of bullshit. Time to get out after 25 years in the community of A Course in Miracles. It was time to get out, no longer using that as my little handle, my little hang my thing out. Oh, I'm a master teacher of A Course in Miracles. Remember the master teacher himself at the Endeavor Academy? These are crazy people. These are crazy people that would allow a group of students, devotees, to follow them, to look up to them, to call them master teacher. It's crazy. We are all masters. We are born to become masters, all of us. So it's nothing special. I could say today easily that I identify myself as a master, and it's nothing special. I'm as ordinary as a stone. Okay, I think it was even a little playful action going on when I took this incarnation, given the name Louis King, bourgeois, king of the ordinary. The point is the ordinary of us, all of us, the ordinary, have the opportunity to awaken and become fully realized, fully self-actualized. This is the intention of evolution, that we would accomplish this, not something special. Okay, no longer, this is again part of a new earth, is the recognition of this being the new ordinary. This is the new normal, right? The new normal is going to be this recognition of spiritual mastery that is our inheritance and is our function now to behave, to carry this energy forward, that we might fully birth our new earth. Okay, if we make it into some special la la land thing, we're still lost in this adolescent fantasy. Okay, so you see the cult that developed around Osho, Choyam Trungpa, pretty much any of the great ones to some degree would allow this. I remember Eckhart Tolle, and I'm not necessarily calling him a great one, but he did make a very significant contribution. I remember him saying something really true in his last retreat that he presided over in Costa Rica in 2002. And he was talking to his group of followers, many of whom had been with him at different retreats in Canada and whatever, kind of follow him around, groupies, right? Everybody's going to have groupies, not me. I think I'm a special kind of master because I've got no groupies. I've got no devotees. It's really good. It's, one of my great teachers said, pray to stay small. Pray to never allow that to happen and have your teaching be tainted, have your person overwhelmed with all of this craziness. It's really, invisibility is truly one of our greatest, highest attributes, to actually achieve spiritual greatness, but without calling attention to oneself. So I was just telling a story now and I forgot about it. That's okay. So in this process, recognizing that at one time, certain individuals seem to have a gift for channeling or being a medium that would connect you with the other side. All of this stuff was, again, this immature way of understanding our relationship with the divine, our relationship with the timeless realm. Again, I speak to this all the time, that it's to be where you can have one foot in eternity and one foot in the space-time world. To walk this way is our daily practice. To be this bridge, to be this portal between this realm. Okay, I just ran across an interesting quote from Nikola Tesla, who I've talked about before. He was there was this anyway. He talks about one way of speaking about this universal mind is Akashic Records. Okay, and it's described as the universal database of all human knowledge, past and future. Okay, I remember, okay, Stan Grof, I was thinking about that. Stan Grof did an amazing bit of work where he was using LSD back before he got involved with breath work and all that. In Eastern Europe, he was working as a therapist and studying, the effects of LSD. And like Aldous Huxley, he understood that LSD really just had this function of interfering with normal brain cell activity. It would shut down certain receptors that had to do with our conscious participation in the space-time world. If you interfered with that, and extreme fasting would do the same thing, he would end up finding out that breath work could do the same thing, basically blocking the blood sugar from getting to the synapses of the brain, so the brain stopped having its normal rational function. Okay, so here you give these big doses of LSD to these very common people. His subjects were mostly inmates that were serving life sentences in prison, or people in hospitals, in like hospice care. They were in the process of dying. So these are people that had nothing to lose. So they were willing to be guinea pigs in these experiments. And he would give them these heavy doses of LSD and then take them on a guided journey. And he found that these people, many of whom were totally uneducated, illiterate, they could go into these fantastic places. He could basically say, okay, you're a Serbian peasant in the 16th century, and they could go to that place and time and describe it. They could speak that language. Like, all of this information is available. And so these people were able, under the influence of this chemical that basically stopped their interference pattern, anything could come through them. You could go into these Akashic records and find anything. Now, if you could do this easily in the past, why couldn't you do it in the future? And this is what the great ones always understood. And so here, Nikola Tesla, there's a great quote about the Akashic records. All perceptible matter comes from a primary substance or tenuity beyond conception, filling all space, the Akasha or luminiferous ether, which is acted upon by the life-giving prana or creative force, calling into existence in never-ending cycles all things and phenomena. That's a quote from 1907, Nikola Tesla. Okay, so Maurice Bucke, one of the first books that I read in the emerging field of transpersonal psychologist, was called Cosmic Consciousness. And so whatever name you use to describe it, talking about a collective body of knowledge, all knowledge, because this is, again, outside of time. So all knowledge from past, present, future, all of it exists in this timeless realm, the Akashic records. So anyone, including you and me, we can access this information. So I've talked before about genius, the process of genius being preparation, incubation, illumination, expression. Okay, very important. This is what creativity is all about. We prepare ourselves to receive certain information from this infinite bank of knowledge, right? The Akashic record. We prepare ourselves by studying physics, mathematics, literature, whatever. And I wrote a book, years ago called The Great Aha, Genius, Creativity, and God, where it talked about the exact process and how many, many people had reflected, they shared stories about how they had done their preparation, and then how they just had to let a project go just because they got frustrated. They couldn't find the solution to the problem. They couldn't figure the ending to the story. So they let it go. incubation. And then always in a moment where they're just sitting on a park bench or in the shower or getting on a city bus or whatever, just some moment, all of a sudden, boom, what they were looking for months and sometimes years, suddenly is present in their brain. Then they can express it in the formula, in the equation, in the poem or the piece of literature. Anyway, so I had countless stories that gave evidence to this process of, again, preparing, basically saying to the timeless realm, the Akashic record, I'm looking for this. Can you find this answer for me, please? You know, in the most basic form, we could say, say you had a really great meal at a restaurant and you're trying to remember the name of the restaurant to tell a friend, and you're just like block, you can't think of the name of the restaurant. The more you think about it, you won't come. And then you say, okay, forget about it. Later on, boom, it pops into your head, you call up your friend, hey, it was like, the name comes to you. On a grander scale, this is what all of the great masters came to know, is this process, this relationship with the divine, the timeless realm, the Akashic record, God, Abraham, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but again, the key is not to make this source special, because that just reinforces your disidentification from it. As you develop a relationship with it, you realize that you and it are one. It's like the unmanifested needs the manifester. That's the relationship. That's the whole yin yang of the universe, is that this dance that we are doing is incredibly beautiful, incredibly powerful, and it's as simple as cha-cha-cha, 1, 2, 3, not complicated. Those that wanted to make it complicated, those that wanted to keep this information obscure, were either doing it out of one of two reasons. Either they were just ignorant, or they were con men or women. They knew, but they wanted to use that knowledge to their benefit. Okay. Okay, Jesus says very clearly in the benediction, the end of A Course in Miracles, through you is ushered in a world unseen, unheard, yet truly there. Okay, this is the timeless realm. This is the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you want to call it, this timeless realm, this unmanifested energetic principle, seeks expression through you. If you say yes, everybody receives the call. The trick is to answer the call by saying yes. It happened to me at the age of 22. The voice came into my head saying, not this is A Course in Miracles, please take notes. The voice said, follow me. Follow my guidance, do what I'm saying, and it gave me details. And it seemed crazy, it upset my whole life. And I did it. And that was the beginning of my relationship with this voice that I would at first identify as the voice, wouldn't even want to attribute it to some form of divinity, God. Later, I would go through the God process and say, oh, okay, this is God or the Holy Spirit. And later on, I would realize that this is the higher self. This is the cosmic consciousness. This is the Akashic record seeking expression through me because I'm a willing conduit. It's as simple as that. Anybody can do it. In fact, the more simple we become, the more empty we become, the better we are at serving this function. So here's the paradox is that, I've always said, the divine feminine will lead the way. Our ability to surrender, our ability to empty ourselves becomes the way of mastery. Not gaining knowledge, not gaining power, becoming empty, so that this power can use us for its expression. Evolution wants to use us for its purpose. Okay, this is a natural law of the universe, evolution. Okay, life. Again, there's this other energy, you could say, that opposes evolution, called inertia. So these two energies are in a dance together. Remember, there's always the dance. Remember the Taoist symbol. There's always this need for the appearance of opposites. So there appears to be a force that opposes evolution called inertia, but it doesn't really oppose it. You might say it challenges it, but it's simply part, because we find this in our lives, that there's this impulse, this evolutionary impulse for us to grow, to move, to change. And there's also this inertia saying, I'm just going to kick back and not work so hard. This dance is essential. This is why it often takes us decades to complete our evolutionary journey. What's the problem with that? What's wrong with spending 70 or 80 or 90 years on the planet, completing our evolutionary function, fulfilling our Akashic, you get the karmic, you get the Akashic, right? The karma is that, the interference patterns that would hold us back. That's the work that it takes us to remove those interference patterns. Remember, just from the very beginning, that's the work, is to remove, to become empty, to become this pure vessel of expression that doesn't any longer have interference patterns that stop it. Okay. So that's the work. If you say, well, what if it's all just easy and so natural? Well, except for that, the action of inertia in you that would try to interfere or hold you back or whatever. It's just a balance. We can't just explode with this energetic creativity. There has to be a balance so we can stay in the body, so we can stay in the person. There's been many traditions that just propose ascension, that we just want to transcend. That's not the point. The point, again, of A Course in Miracles, the point of this whole process of evolution, is that our calling is to create heaven on earth, to be this portal, be this emissary that helps complete this evolutionary process of creating heaven on earth, not leaving the earth behind, not jumping on the blue moon spaceships and creating things out in space. That's not our purpose. Some people, that's their purpose. If they want to do that, fine. That's where a lot of those egoic minds that survive what's coming, that would be the way that many of them would survive, by using technology and their big brains to escape, the hell of earth. Whereas those of us that are really moved by this compassionate love of our planet and love of this function to create heaven on earth would not choose to leave. We would stay here and transform. Remember, the end of the world is not its destruction, but its translation into heaven. And that's our function. That's my function. I invite you every day to join me in this function that we are called to become a collective, these 1,000 points of light that will guide and lead our species into our heaven on earth, a new earth, as Homo globulus, the new human. Okay, again, I use the name Sun King to delineate that aspect of myself, that evolved self. My little boy was Buzzy, my adult human was Louie. My homoglymulus self, capital S self, is named Sun King. And I recommend that every one of you consider developing this relationship, okay? Because the relationship with your own higher self and your energy body is, again, the relationship you have with the timeless realm, because that is the portal it uses. It doesn't use your brain, it doesn't use your body, it uses your energy body, okay, your energetic system. And again, this is the secret to the happy life, secret to perfect health, secret to everything. Okay, the keys to the kingdom are given to you when you step into this reality, your energetic reality, your function as the portal through which the unmanifested manifests. You're completing your highest function as a human being. You know, Eckhart Tolle said that would be the highest achievement of any human being, is to accomplish this simple energetic function, to serve that function. Is your happiness, of course, Miracles was always about that. Your function and your happiness are one. That's all for this today. See you tomorrow. Today, always today. I love you so much.